Hello, readers. Welcome to 20 Questions with Your Favorite Author, where we ask authors important questions like, why would you agree to be on this podcast? I'm Kelly Lynn Colby, Editorial Director at Cursed Dragon Ship Publishing. Our guest this week is Paige L. Christie, fantasy writer and cat herder. Paige is originally from Maine and now lives in the North Carolina mountains. She is best known for the Legacies of Arnon fantasy series. Her work can be found in several collections. When she isn't writing, Paige runs a nonprofit soup kitchen and food pantry. If she's not your favorite now, she will be after. Good evening, Paige. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, howdy do.
Hey, have you been to the green room? We made sure it was stocked.
Well, there were only green M&Ms, which I found unusual, but I did appreciate it.
We liked the way it matched. It was our thing.
Green room, green dress, green M&Ms.
Green M&M, green grapes, like it was all green. That's it. Yeah, green bananas. Maybe don't eat those.
I had green bananas and a half pallet of green grapes at work today, so it's a theme.
It was meant to be. Well, speaking for, I'm so fascinated by this. Like I've like volunteered at food banks and stuff, like just separating food and all that kind of stuff. I just adore that. I think it's because I love food so much, and I'm like, people must eat, so I like to help. And so I adore that you do this for a career. Hats off to you, first of all. And I'm wondering, have you learned anything through this career that has impacted your writing?
Oh, yes, actually. Funny that. The first professional sale I had with full professional, 8 cents a word payment rights on a short story, which actually got me into SIFWA, was a story called Blue that is about a roadside cafe. It's at a multi-point crossroads where a river, a highway, a hiking trail, and a railroad track all meet. And the cafe sits at this crossroads, and it's run by witches. And it calls people off the highway when they're in need, and they cook magical food and serve it on magical crockery to help people. Cool. And that is in the Galactic Stew anthology from Zombies Need Brains. So, yep. So yes, there's food ends up in a lot of my work.
Like, I can't resist it. It is all there.
Can't resist it.
I love it.
Yes.
No, we laugh.
Between the job, that location, which really exists in back home where I'm from, and the fact that I had just before I wrote that story made a trip to Tibet, so there's yak butter in the story. All kinds of weird stuff ends up in there. So,
what does yak butter taste like?
It's so fucking delicious.
It sounds so yummy. Good.
It is
like it's gotta have like different bacterias in it and stuff, right? So it tastes totally different.
Butter. It's so creamy. It's so rich. It's just like, why don't I have yak butter in the U.S.? I don't have it here.
Because the yaks would melt where we live.
They would melt. Yak goo bad. Yak butter good. Yak goo bad. It's a t-shirt. You'll see me wearing it later.
It's a new saying. It's what we do on this podcast. We invent new sayings that totally make no sense to anyone else, and that's the best kind. Well, speaking of that, now that I really want some yak butter, what part of your world, like the world that you created in your fantasy world, do you wish existed in this one?
Ooh. Wow. Let's see. So much of it. There's a city called Adfen in the book that I wish was real. It is a stone city that has a magical origin, and it's all hand built by stone and on an impossible scale. And it is full of wonder and mystery. And I wish that was real, because I would go hang out there.
Like, I want to explore.
Yes. Yes. So when I created the story, I was like, there's more going on. This happens to me because I'm a pantser. I'm like, this town is really interesting. I better go back and figure out how it came to be here. And so I went back and I wrote a short story about how the town got founded.
Smart.
And that actually ended up in a newsletter I sent out later. But yeah, it was, I backtrack all the time to figure out how things are when they become more interesting than not. And there's a whole story about what happens to my characters when I do that. But yeah, So definitely that particular city would be of interest to me. Mm-hmm.
Nice, nice. It looks like Rob is on for you saying hi.
Hi, Rob.
Here to be supportive. We love it. Rob, if you have any questions, please make sure to put them in the chat and I'll make sure to ask them. I mean, the more embarrassing, the better, just for the record. Okay. Which one? Oh, sorry, Paige, you didn't hear that. That wasn't for you.
Rob knows how to embarrass me. It'll work out perfectly.
It'll work out great. Excellent. Which one of your characters has been the hardest to write?
Which one of my characters has been the hardest to write? I would say the hardest character to write was actually the female lead in the book, because she wouldn't tell me who she was for the longest time. Like, I knew the things that I wanted her to do, but what do they say about writing is that being an author is God's way of telling you it's not easy being God, right? So because you're like, your little characters, okay, you need to do this, and she's like, I'm going over here. I'm gonna go do that. Nope. And I got to a point in the first book where it's not really a spoiler. She and one of her brothers got in a fight, and her father reprimanded her, and she had to go apologize to her brother. And the way in which she apologized, by the time she finished apologizing, I knew exactly who she was. But I was like, there you are. There you are. She fought me. She fought me because I wasn't letting her be herself. And once I wrote that line, I was like, okay, we go from here. I got you. You've been telling me, and I've been fighting it, and I'm in now. So
fine, I'll change my whole plot.
Yeah, right. For a female lead who was just so important to the book, for me not to have a handle on her early on was really frustrating. But it was because I was coming at her from the wrong angle. And once she told me who she was, then I got hold of it. I had another character that started off as a secondary character, and by the end of the first book, I was like, and now we're in trouble because you are not a secondary character and you know things and I don't even know what you know. And book 3 is from his point of view. So we changed the whole plot. So yeah, that happened.
See, there's the problem with being a pantser. See, for me, I'm a plotter, so my characters work for me.
Yeah.
That's how this works. They work for me.
That's what you think.
I mean, they surprise me sometimes, but they don't take over. They're not allowed. I'll fire them.
Yeah. Yeah, mine do. They've got these little whips and stuff. They're like, yeah. So yeah.
How did you get out of those handcuffs? La la la.
La la la. La la la. La la la. I live for the handcuffs. What do you mean? Yeah. So yeah, life as a pantser. My life would be easier if I was a plotter. It really would. It really would. But my brain does not work that way. If I find that if I plot the story, then I've already told the story and I have no desire to write it. I'm done.
I get that a lot. I get that.
I'm done. No. So yeah. Who knows? Brains are weird, man. They're weird.
They are. They are. I'm telling you, man. So which one we talked about? So we talked a couple that were really hard to write. Which one do you relate to the most?
I actually relate most to a character who's a minor character in the books. Okay. She is very much how I move through the world in certain aspects of my life. She's in all the books very briefly, but she's very important. She's a foil for other characters. When she speaks, they listen. But she is distinctly her own self. She really doesn't care what anybody else thinks. She's going to get in trouble kind of accidentally on purpose all the time. So she reminds me of me as a teenager.
I was going to say, this reminds you of you, Paige. We need to hang out more.
Yeah, it's like she doesn't intend to be good, but the world wants her to do things that she has no intention of doing. So she's going to do her own thing, and so she gets in trouble. Yeah, and she's also asexual and aromantic, which I am not aromantic, but I am on the A spectrum. So that happened, with her, and I was like, oh, okay, That's a little bit. There's a little bit of self-insert happening here. I see how this is. So that's kind of entertaining. Yep.
I love it.
Yep. So who knows?
Rob has a question. Rob wants to know, in what way has writing been cathartic for you?
Oh, have you read my stuff, Rob? You've read my shit. Dude, I am the queen of angst. One of my writing partners calls me the queen of angst. For me, if I am not feeling what I am writing physically in my body, then I don't feel like I'm doing my job, because what I want when I'm reading is to feel what I am reading physically. And so when I am writing, I know I am on when I am feeling it physically. So for me, it's not just a mental or a thought process release. It's actually a physical response, which is probably why I find writing really exhausting when I'm really doing it well.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted by the end of it, because it is emotion, it is physical, it is mental, it is all of those things. And so cathartic, yes, also exhausting when I'm doing it right, which is why I'm such a slow writer. I do not write quickly because I get worn out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So you're a method writer.
I guess I'd never really thought of it that way, but there definitely is something in me that demands a physical response in my body. Like what you can ask my beta team when I'm, my writing group, when we're reading, they're always like, oh, I can hear Paige on my shoulder going, what is she feeling when she's saying this? What is she feeling in her chest? What is she feeling in her gut? How does her head feel? Oh, they're all like, and I'm like, yeah, that's me. That's me asking those questions. That's how I move through the world. So yeah, it's like those little pages on people's shoulders, right, Rob?
So the fact that what I feel when I'm writing is I have a deadline coming up. That's not exactly the way to.
I actually have one of those right now that I'm behind on. So yeah, right. Sometimes that's part of it. What's really interesting is it's like anything else you do. It's like dance or music or anything else that you do creatively. You learn the craft. You learn the skill of it. You learn the skill of it. And so that even when you're not on physically, emotionally, and mentally, it's like all those muscles are still there. And so you write and you write and you write and you write and you write. And you go back and you read it and you weren't in it. You didn't feel it. It wasn't happening for you. And you're like, this is crap. And then you go back 2 weeks later and you go, okay, apparently I knew what I was doing even when I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing, because I have trained those skills. And so I feel like my writing is better when I'm on, but it's never crap anymore, even when I think it is, simply because I've been doing this for 40 years. Even though I didn't show it to anybody for 30 of those 40 years, I have been practicing, and I do have the skill set to put things on paper and have things be effective, which is a really interesting place to be. So there's an ideal place where I'm writing, but I'm never not effective, which I find really interesting when I started to figure that out.
I like that. It really is. That's why I tell people this is a skill that you learn. It's not a gift. It doesn't mean somebody doesn't have the gift, but I don't care how. It's like they always say, right? Talent doesn't matter. It's whoever works harder. Mm-hmm. Whether you have talent or not. And that's writing. It's a skill. You can learn it. Just keep doing it. So it seems like you did. So nicely done. Nicely done.
Done did it.
I love it. I love it. Yes. And Rob says facts. Yeah, you're on it. Friday wants to know, what is the best coffee? And do you use it as a peace offering in your stories?
Okay, so fun fact, I don't drink coffee. I'm a tea drinker.
Okay.
I'm a tea drinker.
Yes.
I'm not anti-caffeine. I just don't drink coffee. However, yes, to the peace offering in the stories, because in the series, coffee is a rarity. Coffee is a smuggled item in the stories. And so one of the main characters drinks coffee, and everybody's like, oh, you're so weird. Where did you get that from? So it was this running joke through the story that he's the only character that drinks coffee. So
What's in that flask?
exactly. And then it becomes part of his backstory as to who he is, as to this whole coffee thing. Coffee and pound cake are like forbidden items. So, there's a
They
whole
go
thing
so
about
beautifully
coffee and
together,
cake.
though. Good call. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a whole thing in the books about this. There's this sub arc of coffee and cake. It's really, who knows?
For the record, right now, I've never wanted to read a book more. I must get this now. You've sold me.
Sold you.
Coffee and pound
My
cake.
work here is done.
That's right. I'm telling you, you can always tell on this podcast if I had time to eat before or not, because it depends on how much we talk about food, whether I did or not.
I ate right before I came on, so we're good.
Sorry, I'm dragging you in, man. I'm dragging you in. So we talked about, like, so you said you're a pantser, right? So you discovery, right? So you make it up as you go along, which I mean we all do, but like fresh on the page.
Right.
So what is your process for solving a plot issue? Like, do you have a critique group to work it? Do you keep writing until it just works itself out? Do you not worry about it until later? Like what's your process?
Well, actually, the best advice I ever got regarding this is how I approach it, and that was from Janie Wirtz, who is, by the way, my favorite author on the entire planet. She's a damn genius. Plugs for Janie because, oh my God. But anyway, the best advice came from her. She said, there's no such thing as writing yourself into a corner. She says, you write yourself into a corner, dig a hole, or blow up the wall. So a plot problem is only an opportunity. And sometimes I don't know. Sometimes it takes me a while to figure out what the fix is. Like there's a scene at the near the very end of the last book that I mean I stared at for months. It was wrong. It was wrong. It was wrong. It was wrong. It was wrong, and I could not figure out why. And I finally went back and changed 2 words in one of the final sentences in the scene, and everything worked.
Click, click, click.
Because I was coming at it from a place of one emotion, and it needed to come from another emotion. And once I reversed those emotions, everything fell into place.
Fascinating.
Yeah, but my brain knew it was wrong, but I couldn't pinpoint it. I woke up at 3 a.m. and I went, boom, fixed. So
and that's where you're like, I better fix it now because I won't remember.
Yeah. And so one thing that I've run into is that and here's the terrible thing. When I started the series, I thought it was 1 book. I got to the end of the first book and went, I guess this is 2. And then I went, oh crap. Kilris needs his own book. Oh crap, this is a 4-book series. And so there were things that I had done in the first book that I had to figure out how they went with now what was actually going to happen. And so that forced me to be creative in a lot of ways. Because I don't know what's going on, I really have to be careful. But it does mean that I'll be writing a scene and I'll be typing along and I'll go, crap. I write in Scrivener, so I can go click back to the other file that I'm thinking of, and I can go, add this in here. Back to what I'm working on. Click, open another file. This scene needs to happen because I did X. Back to what I'm working on. So my brain just does this all the time. It does mean that putting the jigsaw puzzle that is the novel together at the end of it, because not only am I a pantser, but I don't write in linear order.
Oh my gosh.
I write what I'm in the mood to write. I write what scene comes to mind. If this scene pulls me into that scene, I'll write here and I'll go back over there. It just the look on my beta reader's face when they see the original document is like, okay, you need to pay me for this, not just publish. But yeah, that's why nobody sees anything till it's in 3rd draft, because otherwise they would murder me. And I don't need to be murdered. So
I have stuff to do.
please, I don't need to be murdered. So I forgot the question.
No, you answered it. What do you do when there's a plot hole? Like, a plot issue. You did it. It's perfect. And actually, Rob has a bigger question. Do you ever have situations where you have 2 or more ideas for plot in the middle of the story?
Yep.
It's got to happen all the time if you pants it, right?
Yeah, and I write them both.
Do
And
you?
yep, and I will often actually, if I'm in a scene and I've got multiple characters in it, if like I've got two characters in the scene, I will write the scene from one character's point of view, and then I will copy and paste it into another file, and I'll flip it and write it from the opposite character's point of view, and then I will go, this one works better, but I never throw anything out. I just drop it into a subfolder, because I may learn something about the characters. I may in changing, because I'm in one character's head when I'm writing the scene the first time, because I write very tight third person limited point of view. Well, that's a whole other conversation. But
Okay.
so if I'm in that person's head, there's not only the dialogue and the action going on, but I'm actually in that person's head. I'm feeling what they're feeling. I'm thinking what they're thinking. You know, that's what you're getting.
Right.
When I flip it to the opposite character, they're responding. But what are their emotions? What are their thoughts as they're having the same conversation? And so then I go, which one is going to work better in the tale that I'm telling? Which one is more, for me, this is the bottom line, which one is more emotionally evocative? Which one is more powerful in terms of the story and in terms of the effect it's going to have on the reader? And that's the point of view I pull. So if I have multiple plot ideas, I may write them. I may start down a journey of both. And you'll know very quickly if you start writing this one, and your brain just goes, ooh, and you're off to the races. And you go over here and you're like, no, go over there.
That's when you know you're in the wrong POV, man. Switch it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Switch point of view. If you're going down a plot hole and it's not rolling, you're probably in the wrong spot. It doesn't mean that idea might not crop up later in the story or in another story, but it's probably not right in this moment. I run very much on emotion when I'm writing. I run very much on how I'm feeling and you know where my emotion is carrying me, because and when I'm back rereading my stories, I'm looking for that emotional arc and tempo in the story, the rise and fall of that internal measurement for me is what it's all about. Yeah.
I love it. I also love hearing different ways of doing things. So it's part of the reason to do this, right? There's no one way. As I said, the only wrong way is not to do it. Just do it. It's the only wrong way.
Yep.
What have you experienced within this writing career that surprised you?
So many things, but one thing that I don't know that it surprised me so much as thrilled me is how supportive other more established writers are of people coming up.
For sure.
I don't believe that there's competition. Books are not pie. Everybody can consume as many as they want and have time for.
Wait, there's a limit on how much pie you can eat?
No. Maybe how much is in that one plate?
Oh, okay. Okay, fair.
Right? But it's one of those things that's like, there's room for all of us here. There are so many people out there reading. There's so many people telling stories. Do I want a lot of readers? Yes. Do I understand that some people are going to pick up this book instead of my book? Absolutely. Would I like them to read mine as well? Yes. Do they still have that opportunity? Absolutely. So I love supporting other authors, and I love the way authors support me. And I think that's been the most fun thing and the most thrilling thing about all this. Because, you come into so many fields and they're like, oh, it's you against me, baby. Even in the nonprofit world, it's like you're competing for grants. I'm like, actually, I'm not. Because if I'm the right person for this grant, they're going to give it to me. And if they don't, that person probably needed it worse than I do. And we're going to figure this out. But
that can still feel competitive. No, I get that one, right? All these people trying for the one grant, where we have all of these writers trying for way more readers than there are writers.
Exactly.
Right?
The competition is the wrong way to approach it. Because if we're not supporting each other, then we're hurting each other. And I don't like that.
Plus, if this one person who's a reluctant reader picks up this book and loves it and then decides they want to read more, that it helps everyone. It's like, no, do it, man. Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. That's why even a book that's like, it's not for me, I didn't really like it. But I'm not going to say no one should read it, because somebody might love it and decide they like reading. So do it.
Yes. And never. And it's, Soapbox. Okay.
This is the podcast for soapboxes. Go.
Soapbox. Do not book shame.
Yes,
Don't do
that
it.
drives me batty too.
Do not genre shame. Do not book shame. I'm talking to you, Peter Bailey, professor of creative writing at St. Lawrence University.
A lot of the professors do it, though. I don't know what it is.
It's
but
30 years of long-held anger. That's a whole other podcast.
It still exists. It still exists.
Oh, I know it does. And I'm mad to this day.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea that one style of writing is superior to the other, that genre writing is inferior to literary writing or whatever. Dude, I'm sorry. Paradise Lost is a fantasy. And, it's like, can we please just get over ourselves? Yeah.
They're just jealous because there's more genre writers actually, paying their bills with it.
I mean, for real, and
that's what it is, man.
And if you want to lay on the floor with a bottle of wine and read kids' books, go for it. Do it. In fact, I'll join you.
I'll bring the wine. Me happier than going through like the middle grade section at a bookstore.
So much
There's just something that just makes me so happy about it,
Yeah. I was going through a box of books the other day as I was cleaning out some stuff in my spare room, and I was like, "Oh, Pickles the Firehouse Cat," So, just go for it. So read what you want to read, and don't let anybody tell you that's not what you should be reading. That's the stupidest thing ever.
100%. Just read, man. Just read. Yeah. Nope. Nope. I love it. No, I have the same soapbox. I'm with you. There's room for a few of us up there, I think. Yeah.
We'll
not that I don't review books, but I always say things like this part wasn't for me, right? Like it's not this book sucks. It's horrible. I can't believe they didn't blah blah blah. No. For me, I prefer books that do this. If you like books that do this is probably for you,
Yeah. And I have read some books that I feel are objectively bad. Like if in the first paragraph of the book, which may or may not have actually been written, if in the first paragraph, your character is shirtless, and by the end of the paragraph, he wipes his mouth on his sleeve, we have a problem. in one paragraph that we have issues already. So
those are the books I don't review.
Yeah, those are the books I don't finish.
Yeah, also
I don't
also
review
true.
them either. I don't review them all.
I don't even talk about them. I'm like, next, we're gonna move on.
Yeah, and there are things in certain writing styles, there are books that people love that I can't stand. But I'm not. Let people like things.
It's like I always said, like Twilight wasn't for me. I didn't like Twilight. That was not the thing for me. The world building didn't work for me. But I was an adult, right? But Twilight had a whole bunch of kids reading. So I am not, you know what I mean? I'm like, where's the harm? Let them read. Yeah. Friday Blue says Pip the Pup, Mickey Mouse, and Sweet Red give her pleasure as well. Yep. We need all the fun books.
Enjoy things.
Enjoy them, please. We don't need to be snotty about it. Now, I will be snotty about your yak butter, though. I mean, it better be high quality yak butter.
Well, the yak butter that I had was from Megong Village, and my friend Sorenso's sister from yaks that we got to herd up the mountain. And we got to help churn the yak butter. I will tell you, okay, I'm going to go off topic for a minute.
No, this is on topic. Go.
This is the funniest thing ever. So, so there were a group of us that were on this women's pilgrimage tour. And it was because when you think of Tibet, you think of monks and monasteries and things. Well, I went on a tour that was for women to meet female spiritual leaders in Tibet, which are the nunneries and various things, and to see how the women lived as opposed to just doing all the things that the tourists take you to all the men's places. So it was an inaugural tour, and I got to go on to do some photography to help advertise the tour in the future. And so we ended up in this high mountain village. So beautiful. Tibet is unspeakably beautiful. And we were in Eastern Tibet. So
I'm assuming you were there in the summer too.
We were there in October.
Really?
Yes, it was stunning. But Eastern Tibet is this high plateau. It's like 10,000 feet. But it's this huge plateau, and there are mountains. It's just stunning.
I need oxygen.
It's just stunning. And so we were up there and we were at a traditional family home in a traditional village with the yaks, and the yaks actually come into the house and they have their little barn that's part of the house, and it was fabulous. And the main stove in the kitchen was just a wood cook stove that was heat, and it was also, where everything cooks. And they literally had a pot of water with tea boiling on it, that the tea was picked from herbs and twigs and branches. It was not tea like we think of it, that they had over centuries figured out was good for tea. And they literally had a box of this, all these twigs and stuff that were the tea sitting there. And for like 60 years, the water stayed hot and they just kept adding more stuff to it. So it was just this ever boiling pot of tea. Well, they had this big pot of water that we were going to make dinner. And so Domla, who's the head of the household, she had made all this dough. And she's trying to teach us how to make these little pasta thingies where you dumpling thingies, and you press out the pasta and you break it off and you drop it in the water and it cooks. And
it's like Spätzle. Yeah.
So it's like 6 American women, and we're trying to do this, and we're trying to do this, and we're trying, we're doing the whole thing. And Domla is sitting in the corner with her sister Sorinso, who's our guide, and they're laughing. They're laughing so hard that they like fell off the bench. They were and we're like, "What is so funny? What is so funny?" And so we're just doing the thing and doing the thing. So this food comes into my life, right? And Sorinso finally stops laughing long enough to say, "I can't tell you, it's so rude." And I said, "No." We said, "What? What is she saying? What is so funny?"
Translate.
She said, she wants to know how all of you are so fat if you can't cook. I was like, and we just died. We just died, because here she is, this skinny little hardworking. I mean, I've got literally pictures of her with like a one of the straps around her head and the big wicker basket, like with 4 suitcases in the back of it, and she's trudging up the hill to the house with this. This woman is like mountain woman fit, and here we are, these fat American women, just
with our desk jobs and our
with our desk jobs and our soft hands, right? And oh my God, it was so funny. So I'm sure something like that will end up in one of my books, because I just think of that every time I make pasta.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny and so true, right? It's just, that's a great way to show these different kind of culture things. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
It was beautiful.
Oh, what a great story. Now we want pasta with yak butter. Okay. And some herbs. That's cool, that tea, because I bet you like every household has their own little blend. So like the tea would taste different at each household.
Yeah, and I actually got to bring, I smuggled some back. I still have some. Yeah, and when it smells like Tibet when it's boiling. It's so cool.
Oh.
If you're at JordanCon next year, we'll make a pot.
Yes. Let's do some tea.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that sounds awesome. Or DragonCon. Do you do DragonCon?
I haven't since 2018. I haven't been back. I will be at Multiverse in Atlanta. I'll be at Con Carolinas coming up, and then I'll be at Multiverse. But that's it for my con circuit this year. Oh, and World Fantasy in Kansas City I'll be at this year. That's it for this year.
I know. Yeah, we have a limit too. That's because we might not be able to make it during Con next year, because we want to go to the Carolinas next year, or either North Carolina or Virginia, somewhere right there. So maybe we can talk later. You could tell me a good one we can look into. I think GalaxyCon is the one I was looking at.
Oh, that's a big one.
Right. Well, we want a big one. If we're going to travel all the way from Houston and bring our authors in, we want a big one. So that's what we're looking for.
GalaxyCon would be a really good one then.
Okay, that's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
And it's in March, so that's a good time for us. So we will look. We try to go to different places so our authors can come and sign books, and you know what I mean? Meet a crowd in marketing. They don't care about us; they care about you, right? Which is why we interview authors on here and not publishers. Even though there's a lot of crossover. A lot of crossover, man. A lot of crossover. So let's see. So traveling. So I love that traveling. Do you do a lot of traveling? Is there somewhere like you haven't been, you really want to go?
There's a lot of places I really want to go that I haven't been. I haven't been that many places. I've been lucky and gotten to go to a few places, but the place I really want to go, and I'm hoping to go next year for Worldcon, is Scotland. That's high on my list. Egypt is high on my list.
Me too. I want to see Egypt so bad.
Oh my God. Because I've done 15 years of Middle Eastern and North African dance training. So I really would like to go and actually see the culture where that is from. Because it is definitely not this pasty Celts culture, right? So Yeah, so that I think would be fascinating to actually feel that more
Experience.
immersively. Definitely. I've been to Belize and Costa Rica. I'm from New England originally, so I spent quite a bit of time in all across Canada. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
been all over the states and did that one stunning trip to Tibet, which is probably a whole podcast in itself. But yeah,
That is
um,
so cool.
yeah. But I've never been to Europe, so I would like to. So Scotland, Europe, I'd just check that out at some point. We'll see.
It. Yeah, I figured at this point I'm too old for all the continents, but I'd like to get all of them besides Antarctica.
Yeah, I think Antarctica is not on my list. I have friends that have gone, but I'll just go to the top of Mount Washington and call it good. So,
Yeah, it gets
yeah.
too cold in Houston for me. I don't want to go to Antarctica. Yeah, not
I love the
interested.
cold. It's one thing I don't
Can't do
like
it.
about North Carolina is it doesn't get cold enough.
No, can't do it. I'm out. Um, so talking about these experiences and the traveling and stuff that you've done with your books and stuff, is there anything like when you're writing and it's slow, is there anything you do to get your mojo back?
Oh, well, I'm actually fighting that right now because it's been a rough few months. So usually what I do is I just write. I just babble. I just nonsense babble and don't try to turn it into story. Right now, that hasn't been working for me, mostly because I'm really tired. I fall asleep doing it. But I'm hoping that things will settle down and that will shift. But so usually what I do is I just write and write and write and write and write. And then at some point, my brain goes, oh, what are you doing? You have stories to tell. And
since you're sitting here anyways.
Oftentimes my best stuff will come out when I have just been writing a page of why are you doing this? Why did you think you could do this? What is wrong with you? And all my negativity just flows out. And then all of a sudden my characters are talking to each other and I'm like, oh, okay. Apparently I just needed to get out of my own head and yell at myself for a while. So yeah, under normal circumstances, when I'm not super stressed out from life, that's what works for me is just writing and writing and writing. Even if it's not making any sense and with no destination in mind. That seems to be the thing that breaks me loose. That and listening to really good music really loudly, because sometimes, actually quite often, a line in a song will trigger a whole story idea or a whole character in my head, which is actually the story that I told you about earlier, the story Blue, popped up because I was listening to the Eagles' Sad Cafe. So yeah.
Like,
so you never know where inspiration's going to come. It's like, wait a minute. Huh.
Yeah, the audience knows this story because like 3 people said they loved Blue. So good.
Oh, I love Blue too. It's my favorite short I've ever written.
That's pretty cool. It's funny how sometimes these little nuggets hit your heart, right? It's like, oh, I like that one. Yeah. Even though there's a monster in mine, I don't care. I love it. Yeah, Rob says music is their life. Yeah, no, I feel you on that one. And that's funny because that is my next question. I want to know what song should play every time you walk into a room.
Oh my God, that's a tough one. What song should play every time I walk into the room? Melissa Etheridge, All American Girl.
Perfect. Good choice. I love it. So when you go to your very important meeting tomorrow morning, I want you to be thinking about that song, right? You walk in the room and it's playing for you. That's right. Your new theme. And we're at our lightning round now. So we're going to ask these questions real quick. So what is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Oh, Tillamook chocolate fudge.
Ooh, that sounds delicious. Do we get Tillamook cheese? We're going to have to look. We always eat the cheese. I don't know if we get the ice cream. We'll have to look.
Oh my God, get the ice cream.
I don't know if we're allowed to eat anything but Bluebell. We might be kicked out of the state. It's a Texas law, I think.
Well, come to see me in North Carolina. We'll fix that.
And then I can eat it. All right. Yeah. I like it. I like the way you think. What was the last movie you saw in the theater?
It was pre-Panini. I don't know.
Well, it's been a long time. You need to go back to the theater.
I honestly don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I can't remember.
That's so funny.
It's so bad. I desperately wanted to see John Wick 4 in the theater, but I didn't make it. So, yeah.
I feel you.
Sorry, I
swear
have
they
no
don't stay
idea.
in the theater long enough. You know what I mean? Nothing stays in the
Yeah.
theater long enough. When I was a kid, there'd be a movie in all summer, right? I'm assuming we're about the same age. So it'd be all summer and you had plenty of time to go see it. Now it's like 3 weeks, then it's gone. I was like, but I
Yeah.
wanted to see that.
I honestly, I have no idea.
So funny. What
So
weird
bad.
thing do you collect?
Oh, weird thing do I collect? I don't know that it's weird because I think it's, I haven't collected any in a long time, but I was quite obsessed for a number of decades with Breyer horses. The Breyer model horses. They've been in storage
They're in
for
our tax
20
store.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been in storage for 20 years. But yeah, and I am slightly obsessed with Hall pottery Art Deco teapots.
Ooh. I mean, that's very specific. I'm impressed. No wonder you can't drink coffee. I mean, there's no fun thing to collect for coffee. I like that.
I know. Yeah.
If they could be tamed, what wild animal would you like as a pet?
Oh, I would definitely say a cougar.
Oh, good choice. Good choice. When staying in a hotel, do you unpack?
Ish.
Ish.
Ish. I have my little hot water kettle that has to get unpacked.
Oh,
If there's anything that needs to hang, it needs to hang, and everything else is in packing cubes, and it just gets thrown in a drawer. So
I'm going to say that's a yes then. If you use the drawers, that counts as yes. Let's see. What was your favorite childhood cartoon?
Aquaman.
Ooh, good choice. And finally, where can fans find you and your work?
I am Paige L. Christie everywhere. I am Paige L. Christie on Instagram, on Facebook. I am no longer on Twitter because I had to leave. Couldn't do it. But yeah, my website is paigelchristie.com. If you yell Paige L. Christie in a crowded room, I'll appear.
3 times. You have to say it 3 times. It's the rule.
But yeah, so if you want to find me online, I'm pretty easy to track down. And I will be at Con Carolinas the first weekend in June in Concord. I can't say it like a New Englander. Concord, North Carolina. I will be at Multiverse Con in Atlanta in October, and then I will be at World Fantasy in Kansas City also in October. And other than that, if you're hungry in Jackson County, North Carolina, you can come find me at the soup kitchen. Yeah.
She'll take care of you. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Now that Paige is your new favorite author, please make sure to review her work. You can also review us wherever it is you get your podcast. And you can follow us on Twitch and subscribe on YouTube. We are off next week. We've got stuff to do, some deadlines to hit, but we will be on the 30th with Tamsin Silver. And we'll see you then. Bye.